Hello and welcome back to the Brave podcast, Doing Travel Differently. I'm Faye, your host and founder of The Brave, a small travel company dedicated to uniting and advocating exceptional businesses that are doing things differently, consciously and responsibly. If you've been with us since the beginning, you'll know that this podcast is about progress, not perfection. It's about how small, thoughtful actions by travellers, businesses, and destinations alike can make travel a force for good, enriching lives, protecting places, and reconnecting us with what truly matters. In episode 2, we turn the lens on you, the traveller, exploring how mindful travel can be deeply rewarding and transformative. Today, we're flipping that perspective to focus on the places and the people who make our journeys possible, the communities, cultures, and destinations that welcome us. Because every trip we take has an impact, and it's up to all of us to make sure that that impact is a positive one. The power of tourism done right. Tourism is one of the world's largest industries and one of the most influential. When it's managed thoughtfully, it can be life-changing for communities, generating income, preserving heritage, and sparking pride in local identity. But when done poorly, it can be equally destructive. Over-tourism can price out locals from their homes, strain fragile ecosystems, and erode the very cultures that travellers come to experience. Responsible tourism is about trying to find that balance of creating value without causing harm. It's about turning tourism from an extractive activity into a collaborative partnership, one where everybody benefits. We see this balance beautifully in places like Bhaktapur, Nepal, home of the Nani, one of our brave advocates. This boutique hotel doesn't just sit within a heritage site, it actively supports it. Every detail, from architecture to cuisine, honours the Nawari culture. Guests are immersed in local life, and their spending directly supports artisans who keep Bhaktapur's living heritage alive. And that's what responsible tourism looks like when hospitality becomes a form of preservation. Stories of shared value. Across the world, communities are using tourism to tell their own stories on their own terms. In the Indian Himalayas, the Chandrabhaga camps invites travellers to stay on local farmland beside the confluence of two rivers. Visitors don't just enjoy the mountain views, they learn about village life, environmental stewardship, and the traditions that have sustained families for generations. It's tourism that honours culture rather than commodifying it. In Nepal, the Prakriti Resort and Organic Farm provides a different type of model. Developed after the 2015 Nepal earthquake, it was designed to empower local people to rebuild livelihoods through sustainable agriculture and ecotourism. Every guest meal tells a story, not just of luxury, but of resilience and renewal. And in India, brave advocates such as Rising Dust Adventures and Route on Wheels integrate local partnerships at every stage of the journey. Whether it's employing village guides, sourcing supplies locally, or sharing meals with mountain families, their tours channel revenue directly to the communities that host them. Take the example of Route on Wheels. They carefully curate the highly personalized itineraries and invest significant time and effort into the creation of local relationships and partnerships so that they can take their guests to places that have true impact, both on the guest and on the destination. One such example of this is in the express choice to lodge at the Meraki huts in Pori, who practice the principle of only employing villagers for their construction, maintenance, room services and guest services, as well as the restaurant facilities, that have the effect of incentivizing villagers not to leave the village and move to urban environments in search of work, as many young people do. And they've also provided an alternative source of income for one of the widowers in the village after her husband, the sole source of income for the family, lost his life to COVID. These examples show that responsible tourism doesn't just sustain communities, it can help them flourish. So what can communities gain? What does responsible tourism actually mean on the ground for destinations? Or one thing is economic empowerment. When travellers choose local operators, families and small enterprises gain fairer access to income. Money stays in the region, circulating through shops, farms and schools. Cultural pride. When visitors show interest and respect, traditions gain new value. Skills like weaving, pottery, or storytelling, once in decline, find renewed importance and economic potential. Environmental stewardship. Community tourism often goes hand in hand with conservation. For instance, in Nepal, hospitality providers like Prakriti help raise awareness of biodiversity and traditional agricultural and farming practices, inspiring both residents and visitors to protect it. And these benefits aren't theoretical, they're visible, tangible, and deeply human. What happens when it goes wrong? Of course, the opposite can also happen. If tourism is mismanaged, communities can lose control of their own narrative. Cultural performances can turn into cliches, prices can rise, housing can become scarce, and profit leaves the destination as quickly as it arrived. We've all seen it happen. Souvenir stalls owned by external investors, wildlife encounters that exploit animals for photos, voluntourism projects that unintentionally displace local workers. Responsible tourism challenges these patterns. It asks us to notice where our money goes, notice who benefits, and whether the stories we're told are authentic or edited for our comfort. The role of travellers and industry. So how can we, travellers, tour companies and accommodation providers, help ensure that destinations thrive rather than struggle? We can seek and support local leadership, choose community-run experiences or those that clearly partner with locals, like the models we've seen in our examples in Nepal and India. Be transparent about impact. If you run a travel business, show where your money goes and how it benefits your host community. Collaborate, don't dominate. Listen first. Ask how tourism can support local aspirations rather than overwrite them. Promote cultural sensitivity. Encourage travellers to learn greetings, follow customs, and engage respectfully. And educate through experience. Use your tour guiding services and the information and the stories that you provide as a way to share knowledge with your guests, whether it's about ecology, history, politics, or social change. Responsible tourism is less about rules and more about relationships. It's about making sure the people who call a place home remain at the very heart of its story. The Brave ethos into action. At The Brave, this philosophy sits at the core of everything we do. Our brave advocates, from Himalayan adventure specialists to boutique heritage hotels, are proving that tourism can empower rather than exploit. At our brave stays, like the Juicy Olive in Calavia Theologou in Greece or Casa della Nonna in Monzoni Alto in Tuscany, demonstrate how guest accommodation can integrate the guest respectfully into its surroundings, creating well-being and immersion for the guests and benefits for the locals alike without the inflated price tags that often accompany the eco or community-based branding labels. Each partnership, each stay, each conversation reflects our belief that doing good and doing no harm isn't an ideal, it's daily practice. Shared responsibility and shared rewards. Ultimately, responsible tourism matters for communities and destinations because it builds mutual well-being and respect. When locals thrive, travellers thrive. When culture is respected, curiosity deepens. When the environment is protected, future generations can keep exploring. It's a virtuous circle and we're all part of it. So next time you travel, remember, behind every experience is a community. Your choices, where you stay, who you hire, what you learn, shape the future of that place. So thank you once again for joining me for this episode of the Brave Podcast, Doing Travel Differently. Next week, we'll look at the role that travel services providers can actually play in responsible tourism. Until then, Travel bravely, travel kindly, and remember, doing good and doing no harm always goes hand in hand.